A new report causing outrage around the LA Fire Department's decisions leading up to the dangerous weather conditions last week.
The report in the LA Times says top commanders chose not to assign firefighters and engines to the affected areas in advance of the fires.
Firefighters in Los Angeles are warning that increasing winds could potentially result in explosive fire growth from the existing wildfires.
In the events like this, you sort of look, oh, is it on purpose? Which, it's an insane thing to think. But one begins to ponder whether or not there is a purpose in mind. What could it be, you know? I don't know. Do they want the state empty? I don't know.
You know, when you look at California, how it's burning and man is trying his best to control it. Well, the wealthy are losing their possessions just like those that are not wealthy. God send breeze strong and then the winds shift. Burn down everything that people have.
As of January 16, 2025, Los Angeles is battling multiple wildfires that have already caused extensive damage across the area. These fires have consumed roughly 3,000 acres with just 11% containment. Sadly, at least 24 people have died, and many others are still missing. Over 200 structures, including homes and businesses, have been destroyed, leading to an estimated $275 billion in damages, potentially making this one of the costliest natural disasters in U.S. history. Firefighters are tirelessly trying to control the flames, but extreme winds are making the task even more difficult. The fire department has issued evacuation orders and is keeping residents updated as the situation continues to evolve. Amid the destruction, suspicions are growing that the fires may not be purely accidental. Many have begun speculating online and in community discussions that the fires were deliberately started. A key element fueling these theories is the unusual spread and intensity of the flames. Some believe the fires ignited in suspiciously coordinated patterns, too precise to be caused by natural events like lightning strikes or campfires. Others point to multiple fires starting close together as evidence of intentional actions. Conspiracy theorists suggest that the fires could be connected to urban development agendas or larger global plans, with the destruction of homes in specific areas potentially making way for future development. This has only intensified public distrust.
California has a lot of problems that sort of baffle the mind as far as why they do things. And then in the events like this, you sort of look, oh, is it on purpose? Which, it's an insane thing to think. But one begins to ponder whether or not there is a purpose in mind. What could it be, you know? I don't know. Do they want the state empty? I don't know.
Well, Mel, there's already talk, and we played a couple of sound bites of reimagining the way rebuilding occurs. And obviously there's a great need for high-density housing in California and across the country. That's a big push by the climate folks. And you're already hearing rumblings of that. In this case, like goodbye single-family homes, hello high-density housing.
Yeah. It's pretty scary, and it'll take decades to do that too. It's like even if it, you know, if it's a good idea, which I don't know if it is, but reminds me of the old cattle barons clearing people off the land, you know. But I don't know. I can make all kinds of horrible theories up in my head, conspiracy theories and everything else, but it just seemed a little convenient that there was no water, and and that the wind conditions were right, and that there are people ready and willing and able to start fires. And are they commissioned to do so, or are they just acting on their own volition? I don't know. But they seem pretty well equipped, some of these people that they're catching.
A lot of questions. A lot of questions, Mel. Mel, a message tonight.
You know, I'll sift through the remains of my place and see if I can find any clues for you.
Gibson's remarks have sparked controversy, with many accusing him of spreading conspiracy theories and misinformation. Critics have described his statements as tone-deaf and some argue that they contribute to the confusion surrounding the causes of wildfires. Some groups have even raised the possibility that advanced technology, like directed energy weapons, could have been used to ignite the fires. While there is no credible evidence to support these claims, they have gained traction online and fueled further skepticism among the public. Another issue fueling suspicion is the perceived lack of transparency from local and state officials. Many residents feel that they have not been given a full explanation of how the fires started, leading to accusations that information is being withheld. This has sparked further conspiracy theories, particularly in light of California's history of arson wildfires. As investigations continue, a significant portion of the public remains unconvinced by official explanations, suggesting that the fire's rapid spread cannot be solely attributed to natural causes or climate change. While no conclusive evidence has been presented to support the idea that the fires were deliberately started, the growing mistrust and unanswered questions have caused a divide in public opinion. Some are focused on recovery and the urgent need for aid, while others are calling for independent investigations into the origins of the fires. Many people, particularly those who believe the fires were planned, are demanding full transparency from authorities and a more thorough examination of all possible causes, including human intervention. Pastor Gino Jennings, in his recent sermon addressing the wildfires, tied the crisis to spiritual themes, warning that while human efforts may contain earthly fires, they cannot prevent the greater fires of divine judgment. Using biblical teachings, he compared the wildfires to the inextinguishable fire of hell, which cannot be put out by any human means. Jennings's words resonated with many, encouraging listeners to reflect on the fragility of life and the need for spiritual redemption in the face of disaster. He emphasized that material possessions are temporary and that true security lies in turning toward God.
You know, when you look at California, how it's burning and man is trying his best to control it. As I've said in time past, I will always say, God be my helper. Whether you're rich or poor, bond or free, God have a way of putting you on the run. For the wealthy are losing their possessions just like those that are not wealthy. They're in situations where they have to do the same thing, pack up, run for their life. God send breeze strong and then the winds shift. Burn down everything that people have. I am not going to ask you what is God trying to tell you. God don't try to do nothing. God is telling you repeatedly, naked you came in the world, and naked you shall return. And the fire is burning now. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if this happened across America? Across America, can you imagine?
Lord.
Well, man have tools and instruments to put out that fire. But there's a fire coming. No water can douse this flame. No water can put it out.
Oh no.
For this flame is kindled
Mine anger.
by God's anger. It's not an arsonist. No one dropped a match or a cigarette.
No.
The Bible says in the book of Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and at verse 22.
Listen at this.
For a fire is kindled in mine anger.
Do you hear this? The Lord says a fire is kindled in my anger.
And shall burn.
And shall burn.
Unto the lowest hell.
Unto the lowest hell.
And shall consume the earth.
And shall consume the earth.
With her increase.
With her increase.
And set on fire.
Set on fire.
The foundations of the mountain.
Now, the fires that's burning in California now is a different location.
That's right.
It's not the foundation of the mountains.
No.
It's the top of the mountains.
That's right.
God gonna go right to the foundation.
And set on fire the foundations of the
That's
mountains.
just getting to the root underneath the earth.
That's right. That's right.
Make everything from the bottom begin to melt, which will cause everything up the top crumble.
That's right.
No fire department. They're running dry on water. They're calling for help. They're flying the men from overseas. Some men dying, losing their life. Cars jammed highways, got to run out their car and leave all their possessions.
That's right.
Some people running back to get dogs. Not me, buddy. So, the Lord is constantly warning creation. Not trying to do it. He's doing it. And after this time is over, and many rebuild, replant, greenery come back, businesses start back thriving, I guarantee many will be as though the fire never came.
That's right.
His sermon struck a deep chord with many, particularly those affected by the wildfires. For those who have witnessed the destruction firsthand or have experienced the aftermath, Pastor Jennings' words served as both a wake-up call and a source of spiritual perspective. His message reinforced the idea that the wildfires should not only be seen as a physical disaster, but also as a spiritual warning. For Pastor Jennings, the wildfires are a reminder that everything on earth is temporary, and that people should not place their trust in material possessions, but in God. Pastor Jennings also emphasized that God's judgment is impartial. Everyone, regardless of their wealth or status, is vulnerable to divine wrath. This universal vulnerability served as a powerful reminder that salvation is available to all, and that no one can escape God's judgment on their own. His vivid depiction of hellfire, where even the foundations of mountains will burn, was a sobering reminder of the eternal consequences of sin. For Jennings, hell is not a metaphor, but a very real place of eternal suffering, and he urged his listeners to consider the long-term implications of their actions. The LA wildfires have become a focal point for a wide range of emotional, social, and political discussions. Beyond the immediate devastation, the fires have highlighted the broader themes of vulnerability, divine power, and the need for spiritual preparedness. From the destruction of homes to the tragic loss of life, the wildfires have left an indelible mark on the affected communities, forcing many to confront their vulnerability. Public figures like Mel Gibson and Pastor Gino Jennings have added their voices to this conversation, further intensifying the emotional and spiritual impact of the disaster. The fires have ultimately reminded everyone of the power of God and the need to place their trust in Him, as earthly efforts will never be enough to overcome the true forces at play. In a shocking turn of events, Tyler Perry, one of Hollywood's most cherished producers and actors, found himself face-to-face with the terrifying fury of the Los Angeles wildfires. A man whose larger-than-life presence, kindness, and resilience have made him a household name, Tyler Perry suddenly found his entire life at risk of being consumed by the flames. Yet, amid the chaos and destruction, he managed to escape with his life and the safety of his family, though not without a heartbreaking loss. Tyler Perry is no stranger to overcoming challenges, from his humble beginnings in poverty to becoming one of the most successful filmmakers and philanthropists of our time. His life story is one of perseverance, strength, and unwavering faith. His rise to fame through the creation of the Medea franchise, along with his influential work in television and film, has solidified his place as a legend in Hollywood. But beyond his professional success, Tyler is equally admired for his generosity. He has consistently used his platform to help those in need, whether through supporting underprivileged communities or advocating for mental health awareness. His impact on both Hollywood and the world at large is undeniable. However, Tyler Perry now finds himself facing one of the most unexpected challenges of his life: the Los Angeles wildfires, a disaster that has left thousands reeling from loss. These fires have ravaged the region, spreading at an uncontrollable pace and leaving destruction in their wake. Homes, wildlife, and entire communities have been torn apart, including the homes of high-profile figures like Perry himself. As the flames quickly approached, Tyler's family and belongings were in imminent danger, forcing them into a situation none could have anticipated. The wildfires in Los Angeles have become an all-too-familiar annual threat, but this year's fires have been especially destructive. What started as a small spark quickly escalated, fueled by dry conditions and unrelenting winds, into a raging inferno that tore through neighborhoods and forests at lightning speed. In a matter of hours, entire communities were engulfed in flames, leaving little time for people to react. Emergency alerts blared across the region, urging immediate evacuations. The death toll mounted, and thousands of families were displaced as the firestorm continued to rage. In just a few days, the flames destroyed over 2,000 homes in Los Angeles County, with the fires moving unpredictably, jumping from one area to another and spreading devastation wherever they went. Among the many victims of this catastrophic event was Tyler Perry, whose oceanfront mansion, nestled in one of the most scenic areas of Los Angeles, found itself directly in the path of the wildfire. What had once been a symbol of his hard-earned success now stood on the brink of annihilation. As the fire rapidly approached, Tyler and his family were faced with a life-or-death decision. Their beloved home, a sanctuary of peace and refuge, was now at risk of being reduced to nothing more than a pile of ashes. The unpredictability of the wildfires added an extra layer of urgency and fear. There was no time to delay. With no clear understanding of whether they would ever be able to return, Tyler, his loved ones, and even his pets had to make a split-second decision to evacuate. The fire was closing in fast, and every passing minute brought them closer to disaster. The scale of the fire and the looming danger to Tyler Perry's mansion painted a chilling picture of the perilous situation he and his family were facing. It was a stark reminder that no one, no matter how wealthy, successful, or famous, can escape the devastating power of nature's fury. Tyler Perry's oceanfront mansion was more than just a home. It was a breathtaking testament to his success, sitting along the coast with panoramic views of the ocean and nature's vast expanse. The property had been a reflection of his hard work and accomplishments, but in an instant, it could all be gone. Every second felt like an eternity as Tyler Perry and his family made their way to the helicopter. The roar of the flames grew louder, and the oppressive heat intensified. With every step, the air grew thicker, making it harder to breathe. The fire was closing in on their property, its crackling sound like a distant rumble of thunder, signaling its relentless approach. There was no more time for thought, no room for doubt, only action. Tyler's mind raced as they boarded the helicopter. He had spent years building this home, turning it into a sanctuary, a testament to everything he had worked for. It wasn't just a mansion. It was a piece of his soul, the place where his dreams had manifested into reality. Yet in that moment, none of that mattered. His family's safety was the only thing that mattered now. The helicopter blades spun to life, and the world below began to shrink as they lifted off the ground. As they soared into the sky, Tyler felt a mix of relief and sorrow. The rush of escape brought a fleeting sense of safety, but as the flames below continued to rage, he couldn't shake the feeling of loss. His home, his sanctuary, was being consumed by the fire. The very thing that had offered him peace, now becoming a victim of nature's fury. His thoughts, however, kept returning to the family he had left behind. His children, his loved ones, and his dog, the loyal companion who had always been by his side. In the chaos of the evacuation, Tyler realized with a jolt of horror that his dog had been left behind. The realization hit him like a sharp blow to the chest. His dog, who had been his constant companion, offering solace in times of loneliness and stress, was still on the property. The guilt was overwhelming. How had he forgotten? How could he have left behind a member of his family? How had he forgotten? How could he have left behind a member of his family? The thought of his beloved pet trapped in the flames, helpless, gnawed at him. But Tyler knew that turning back was impossible. The fire was spreading too quickly, and there was no safe way to return. His family had already narrowly escaped the inferno, and any attempt to go back could jeopardize their lives. It was a gut-wrenching decision, one no pet owner ever wants to face. As the helicopter continued its flight, Tyler's heart weighed heavy with guilt. The safety of his family had been his only priority, but the bond he shared with his dog was undeniable. That animal had been there for him during his darkest moments, offering comfort when no one else could. Now, the feeling of abandonment was consuming him. His family tried to comfort him, but Tyler remained lost in thought. He couldn't shake the image of his dog still at the mansion, possibly facing an uncertain fate. In the days that followed, as the fires ravaged Los Angeles and reports of destruction filled the news, Tyler Perry's mind never strayed far from the painful realization of what he had left behind. Despite the devastation of losing his home, the emotional toll of the decision haunted him. Tyler had always been a man who made decisions with conviction, but this was different. This wasn't a decision about success or failure. It was a decision about love, sacrifice, and the bond between a person and their pet. In the weeks that followed, Tyler made efforts to find solace. He spoke about the experience, sharing the painful decision he had made with the public, hoping that others would understand the impossible position he had been in. The story resonated with many who had faced similar challenges, reinforcing the notion that the love between humans and their pets transcends everything, even in the most harrowing moments. Tyler Perry's escape from the wildfires was nothing short of miraculous. He and his family made it out safely, but the emotional scars remained. The loss of his home was hard, but the loss of his dog was something he would carry with him for the rest of his life. And in the end, it underscored the harsh truth that sometimes, even with all the success and resources in the world, some decisions cannot be undone. The bond with his dog and the feeling of having left it behind would stay with him forever, a reminder of the complexities of love and loss. As the helicopter gained altitude, Tyler Perry felt the weight of his decision pressing heavily on his chest. The flames below seemed to grow larger with every passing second, their red and orange tongues licking the sky, devouring everything in their path. In the midst of the deafening whir of the helicopter blades, a profound silence filled his mind, as if his thoughts were all that remained in the chaos. His eyes stayed fixed on the horizon, but in his heart, his thoughts were consumed by one thing: his dog. He could feel the gnawing guilt in the pit of his stomach, a constant reminder that in his rush to save his family, he had left behind a beloved member of that family. His dog had always been there for him, through moments of doubt, during long sleepless nights, and when he needed companionship the most. This wasn't just any pet. This was a friend, a true companion. They had been through so much together, and now, in the most critical moment of his life, he had left that bond behind. The fire was advancing rapidly, its crackling roar now nearly drowned out by the thrum of the helicopter's engine. But no matter how loud the world around him became, Tyler couldn't escape the thought of his dog. He knew, deep down, that turning back was not an option. His family had made it out, and to risk everything to go back would mean putting them all in jeopardy. Every second spent hovering in uncertainty was a second closer to the fire catching up with them. But the decision to leave behind his dog wasn't just about logic. It was about love. Tyler's love for his pet had always been unwavering. That bond, built over years of companionship, was something few people could understand. The thought of his dog, alone, frightened, and trapped, was more painful than any of the hardships he had faced throughout his career. The further the helicopter flew from the fire, the heavier his heart became. The surreal sense of escape was tempered by an overwhelming sense of loss. It was a loss of not just a material possession, the mansion, but of something much more profound. The place they had called home, the refuge from the outside world, the sanctuary where memories had been created, was slipping away. And in the distance, his dog was still on that property, its fate uncertain. The heavy silence in the cabin of the helicopter only made the guilt more suffocating. Tyler kept replaying the moments leading up to the evacuation in his mind. He had moved quickly, focused solely on the safety of his family. But in that rush, there had been a crucial oversight. How had he forgotten? How could he have left behind the one being who had stood by him through everything? The image of his dog's face, the trusting eyes, the wagging tail, kept flashing in his mind, a painful reminder of the family member he couldn't protect in that moment. As they neared a safe distance from the fire, Tyler leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes for a moment. The flight was relatively calm, but his heart was anything but. The anguish over his dog would not be easily assuaged. The emotional toll of having to leave a loved one behind, knowing the danger it faced, would stay with him long after the flames had subsided. In the weeks that followed, Tyler's thoughts remained occupied by the loss, and the grief was palpable. Despite the relief that came with the safety of his family, he found it difficult to move forward without addressing the emotional aftermath. He knew there was no going back. He couldn't change the events that had unfolded. But the feeling of abandoning his pet was a wound that wouldn't easily heal. He shared his sorrow with the public, speaking about the pain of leaving his dog behind in such a perilous situation. His vulnerability resonated deeply with many who had experienced similar heartache. Tyler Perry's story became more than just an account of a famous Hollywood figure escaping disaster. It was a tale of love, sacrifice, and the complexity of human emotions when faced with the impossible. Though Tyler eventually made peace with his decision, the emotional toll remained.
TD Jakes was hanging out at a rapper and f***ing party. What? That Puff Daddy held. He's sitting right there. Old TD Snakes.
Amen.
They there f***ing and everything. TD Snakes right there.
Prepare yourselves, because the Diddy scenario is about to become even more bizarre if you thought it couldn't get much crazier. It was recently revealed by Gene Deal that even TD Jakes went to events hosted by Diddy. Rumors are already circulating that the federal government may have also been engaged with him.
And anybody who has that kind of government on their shoulders don't have time to be playing with freaks.
Numerous A-list celebs have been rushing to disassociate themselves from Diddy after his arrest made headlines, saying they had never attended his events. The worst part is that they were unaware that Diddy had some very important tapes, which may reveal everything. According to the claimed videos, other celebrities participated actively in the parties and performed the same things Diddy did to his victims. And you know who has long been associated with Diddy? Jay-Z. Even more startling, perhaps, is TD. According to reports, Jakes, one of Diddy's closest pastor pals, is also involved in this problem. Everything that is happening between these three will soon be revealed to us. If you've never heard of TD as a well-known prosperity preacher, Jakes believes that God wants us to be wealthy because Jesus was affluent. Bishop Jakes, however, does not often associate with the underprivileged or impoverished, in contrast to Jesus. Rather, he is more likely to be seen mingling with millionaires, celebrities, and presidents. Additionally, Diddy is one of his closest celebrity buddies. For years, individuals have been discussing the possibility that their friendship is more complex than it first seems. Some others even question if anything is happening behind the scenes. The gossip around TD when his son, Jermaine Jakes, was imprisoned for indecent exposure in 2009, Jakes' involvement in covert relationships really took off. Undercover Dallas police officers apprehended 29-year-old Jermaine at Kiest Park. The arrest report states that Jermaine approached two undercover vice officers, unbuttoned his trousers, and made eye contact with one of them. He was immediately apprehended by the authorities for indecent exposure. Despite being arrested on the spot, he was eventually let go. However, the irony is that despite his father, TD Jakes' lectures about virtue and morality, while his kid was found doing the exact opposite. Doesn't it make you wonder about everything? Regarding TD and Diddy. They have a strong bond, Jakes. After Kim Porter died away, Diddy even requested Jakes to preside over her burial. In an Instagram tribute to Kim, Jakes spoke of Diddy's intense affection for her. Even in the midst of sorrow, he urged people to keep in mind the benefit of having had such love. This is where things get complex, however. The reports of Diddy's treatment of Kim depict a much harsher picture than Jake's optimistic portrayal of love. Diddy and Kim's relationship is clouded by accusations of abuse and control, leading one to question if the love Jakes extolled was as pure as he thought. Serious claims have been made that Diddy treated Kim with the same level of aggression, controlling her, hitting her, and even fracturing her nose. Additionally, according to Diddy's ex-bodyguard,
I didn't know Cassie, but I knew somebody who was going through the same thing she was going through, and that was Kim Porter.
Furthermore, it is quite disturbing to learn that Kim Porter was not mistreated, especially in light of the current reports of 120 other victims coming forward. In case you haven't been paying attention, lawyers said last week that they want to bring at least 120 cases on behalf of individuals who claim that Sean Diddy Combs and his colleagues essayed them. Many of these victims have already talked to law authorities, including the FBI, said to Houston lawyer Tony Busby, who was speaking at a news conference with essay victim advocates and co-counsel Andrew Van Arsdale from Ava Law Group. To support their claims, the lawyers are currently compiling police reports and hospital medical data. Busby said that after seeking medical care after the abuse, several of the victims had illicit drugs discovered in their systems. One drug that often appeared in the victims' testing was the non-opiate sedative xyzoline, sometimes referred to as Trang. According to reports, many of these victims were too scared to come forward until Diddy was arrested by federal officials in September and entered a not guilty plea. They fear reprisal from the offenders or their accomplices, as well as reaction in their families and communities, Busby noted. They really worry about their own safety. He said that many influential persons with secrets would probably be revealed throughout this court procedure. Sean Diddy Combs is facing fresh and unsettling charges.
New and disturbing accusations against Sean Diddy Combs. A Texas attorney tonight says he now represents 120 alleged victims, men and women, whose allegations span more than 30 years. The accounts of the alleged victims have not been fully vetted, but their accusations involve the kind of fueled alleged sexual assaults described in a dozen civil lawsuits and the criminal case against Combs.
The lawyers are presently representing 120 accusers from over 25 states, the bulk of whom reside in California, New York, Georgia, and Florida, despite the fact that over 3,000 individuals have contacted them about possible maltreatment. Many of the victims feel more at ease coming forward now that Diddy's arrest has reduced his power and influence over their life, according to Andrew Van Arsdale. According to Busby, there is about an equal number of males and women among the claimed victims, with 62% identifying as African American, 30% as white, and the other individuals as Asian or Hispanic. Although every instance is different, an unsettling trend has been seen. Numerous victims allege that Diddy or his colleagues essayed them as others looked on after luring them into circumstances where their drinks were tampered with at parties. At these gatherings, declining a drink often resulted in expulsion from the party, according to one victim, who was 22 years old. According to reports, these incidences happened at Diddy's notorious all-white parties at well-known locations in New York City, as well as during auditions and album release events. After being mistreated, several people who contacted Sean Diddy Combs or his accomplices were threatened with death or faced financial repercussions.
Any individual or entity who knew about the conduct and benefited from it, but did nothing to report it or stop it, and any individual or entity who covered it up or helped cover it up.
Some of the people who saw or assisted in the
These
crimes
people who
are
know who they
well-known
are
individuals,
should just
according
come
to attorney
forward
Tony
now.
Busby. Anybody or anything that knew about the behavior and profited from it, but did nothing to report it or stop it, as well as anybody or anything that covered it up or assisted in covering it up, should come forward right now. Even more alarming is the fact that at least 25 of the claimed victims were under the age of 9 at the time of the assaults. Combs and his allies essayed the youngster in the studio after Combs' record company, Bad Boy Records, brought him to New York for an audition, Busby said. According to Busby, the youngster and his parents were offered a record contract. Although Combs will be the target of individual lawsuits, Busby said that corporate institutions that benefited from the maltreatment, including as banks, pharmaceutical firms, and hotels, may also be implicated in these actions. It's important to realize that these stories were going around for a long time before Diddy's arrest and the lawsuits made news. Diddy has long been considered one of the most contentious personalities in the entertainment sector. However, TD is aware of the crazy rumors that circulate about Diddy's notorious parties. Jake has never declined an invitation to participate in the celebrations. Given the rumors about what really occurs after midnight, this raises some suspicions.
But for him to be at a Diddy party, I don't know. Like, I feel the same way about that as I feel about when Tyler Perry came to his church and laid hands on him and he caught the Holy Spirit from Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry is the bishop of what?
Additionally, Jaguar Wright was questioned about her belief in TD Diddy, who often attends Jake's events, had a lot to say. When Jaguar brought up the Tyler Perry case in 2013, she wasn't entirely incorrect. In a ceremony that was uncannily similar to anything from Eyes Wide Shut, Tyler said a prayer to TD Jakes, and Perry soon after presented him with a large check for $1 million. This raises questions about their connection and the kind of industry impact they have. Fast forward to July 2021 and Diddy and TD's collaboration. When they revealed intentions to air Jake's sermons on Diddy's cable TV network, Revolt, things took an intriguing turn. When they discussed this information over the phone, Diddy spoke candidly about how Jakes got him through a very trying time in his life. He thought about losing everything, including his closest buddy Andre, his fiancée, and the mother of his kids. Diddy said that he felt more hopeful after seeing and hearing Jakes. Nonetheless, there are severe concerns raised by the association between a person who professes to be a man of God and someone who is the subject of grave accusations. When someone who socializes with accused wrongdoers offers spiritual advice, it raises doubts about its veracity. As one admirer put it, TD, when it comes to that green, Jakes is devoted. For that foo, it's all about the money. Additionally, there are some rumors circulating that TD Jakes held events connected to what some are referring to as a secret society in addition to taking part in Diddy's notorious FOS. This concept isn't simply a passing fad among fans, it's becoming popular in a number of groups, particularly in light of the peculiar circumstances surrounding these get-togethers. This view is also held by Mace, the rapper turned pastor, who has been outspoken about his disagreements with Diddy about publication rights. Diddy has been at odds with him for a long time, rejecting his allegations, and even attempting to damage Mace's reputation by calling him a phony preacher.
Every step on how to deal with Puff biblically, I dealt with him biblically. I reached out to his bishop. His bishop declined to mediate the situation. So why should we keep these same gatekeepers who have done nothing but exploited us?
Mace claims that the devil is controlling them, which calls into doubt the sincerity of their religious pursuits. I handled Puff according to the Bible at every stage of the process.
Floored, I was shocked, and it was apparent to me that some type of cover-up is going on. The Orinda police are in violation of federal law, and I will make sure if they want to be the next facing a lawsuit, they can be the next.
As this information circulated, a lot of speculation emerged about who this figure might be. Two names have consistently come up in conversations: TD Jakes and none other than Jay-Z. Even Jaguar Wright recently stepped into the spotlight with some shocking claims that have left many reeling. During her appearance on Piers Morgan's Uncensored, she suggested that Beyoncé and Jay-Z are hiding some dark secrets, alleging that they are keeping bodies in their home for creepy rituals. But that's just the beginning.
You've been called a whistleblower. You knew Sean Diddy Combs for a long time. You attended a number of his infamous parties. And in 2022, you made headlines after comments where you called him a and in response, you were called crazy and jealous. Do you feel vindicated by the events of the last few weeks?
No, not at all. Because he's just the beginning. Until him and his cohorts are all held to account publicly and legally.
This was Jaguar's first big moment on national TV, and she didn't hold back. According to her, Jay-Z has been funding investigations into high-profile figures like R. Kelly and now Diddy, likely to divert attention from his own questionable actions. She insists that she has 3 victims ready to testify in court about what Jay-Z and Beyoncé allegedly did to them, claiming that the couple would intoxicate people until they passed out and then transport them to their home to exploit them. Jaguar went even further, alleging that there are bodies hidden at Beyoncé and Jay-Z's residence, and that Jay-Z played a role in the tragic death of Aaliyah. She pointed out that Dream Hampton, who led the surviving R. Kelly campaign that fueled the hashtag #MeToo movement, was allegedly funded by Jay-Z to ensure that R. Kelly faced justice. According to Jaguar, this was all part of a larger scheme, as she emphasized that the couple is involved in disturbing activities, including holding people against their will and transporting them on planes while unconscious, much like Aaliyah when she boarded that fateful flight. Jaguar firmly believes that Diddy will reveal shocking truths in court during his trial, suggesting that anyone who thinks otherwise is not paying attention. She also raised eyebrows about the silence of the hashtag #MeToo movement during Diddy's downfall, questioning why haven't they spoken up if their cause is genuinely rooted in justice. Interestingly, a buzz has been growing about Beyoncé's new song, Daughter, from her album Cowboy Carter. In this track, she dives into some deep, intense feelings after finding out someone was cheating with her husband. The lyrics are vivid and graphic, hinting at dark themes that have fans talking.
Be diverse from church to church. Every church has a different opinion on the issue, and every gay person is different.
The founder of the Potter's House and well-known preacher, Bishop TD Jakes, is presently facing a difficult legal struggle that has made his life even more difficult. A pastor from Pennsylvania named Dwayne Youngblood has made grave claims against the well-known spiritual leader, who just had a medical crisis during his sermon on November 24th. Jakes sexually molested Youngblood while he was between the ages of 18 and 19, according to Youngblood's public accusations. Jakes and his legal team have taken action as a result of the public and media's attention being drawn to these bombshell charges. Bishop Jakes, who is now in stable condition after a medical assessment after his sermon, has sued Youngblood for defamation in reaction to these allegations. Jakes' lawyers have vehemently refuted the accusations, claiming that Youngblood's statements are not only false but also driven by greed. Jakes' legal team is working hard to preserve the pastor's name and standing in the religious world, arguing that the pastor's activities are motivated by a personal agenda rather than a valid grievance. Both sides are getting ready for what is anticipated to be a very heated confrontation in the courts, as the legal processes have swiftly intensified. Even while the lawsuit specifics are still being worked out, there is no denying the tension in the case. This case is not only a personal problem for Jakes, a man who has based his legacy on inspiration, religion, and community service, but it also has the potential to affect his reputation both within and outside of the Christian community. The public's attention will be riveted to the drama as Bishop Jakes battles to clear his reputation while managing his own medical recovery as the case develops. Dwayne Youngblood, a pastor from Pennsylvania, publicly accused Bishop TD Jakes of improper conduct during an edition of the Larry Reed Live podcast on October 27th, which brought the accusations against Jakes to light. The instances happened years ago, according to Youngblood, who remembered the first claimed contact after a Pittsburgh church function. According to Youngblood, Jakes tried to kiss and hug him, which he said was an unwanted and awkward move. Youngblood recounted a second meeting in which Jakes allegedly asked if they might share a bed as part of his account of the alleged occurrences. The Christian community, which considers Bishop Jakes to be one of the most important leaders in contemporary ministry, has been rocked by these unsettling accusations. Given Jakes' long-standing reputation for advocating for religion, honesty, and family values, many people were taken aback by the allegations. Given that it concerns a well-respected religious person, Youngblood's disclosure has sparked significant debate. Youngblood, for his part, has said that he had first been reluctant to share his story but felt compelled to do so after a series of personal reflections and struggles. The podcast episode went viral, and the story quickly gained traction with many people speculating on the veracity of the allegations. Following these allegations, Bishop Jakes and his legal team have vehemently denied any wrongdoing, claiming that Youngblood is lying to damage Jakes' name and get money. The charges have no validity, according to Jakes' agents, who have rejected them as unfounded and part of a larger attempt to damage his reputation. A defamation complaint was brought against Youngblood soon after the allegations were made public, and they have pledged to contest the allegations in court. The public's interest in the lawsuit's specifics and the accusations itself has grown as the case progresses. The wider ramifications for Jakes' legacy and the relationship of trust between religious leaders and their communities are now at the center of the discussion as both parties get ready for what could be a protracted court struggle. Even while Jakes is still committed to protecting his image, many are curious about how the case's continued media coverage would impact Jakes and those who see him as a spiritual leader. The well-known preacher and founder of the Potter's House in Dallas, Texas, Bishop TD Jakes, is now involved in a legal dispute as a result of grave allegations that have damaged his image. During a Larry Reed Live podcast broadcast on October 27th, Pennsylvania-based preacher Dwayne Youngblood publicly accused Jakes. According to Youngblood, Jakes sexually attacked him when he was 18 or 19. Youngblood said the assaults happened after a Pittsburgh church function. He further said that at a second visit, Bishop Jakes firmly denied the claims made by Jakes that have generated a great deal of controversy. Jakes responded to the allegations by suing Youngblood in Pennsylvania federal court for defamation. According to the complaint his legal team filed, the accusations are nasty and completely untrue. According to his attorneys, Youngblood wants to harm Jakes' reputation in order to make money. They contend that the pastor has suffered greatly as a result of the accusations, both emotionally and professionally. According to Jakes' legal team, the pastor has been significantly impacted both physically and emotionally by the protracted legal struggle as the case moves forward.